In this video, I'm going to go over various landscape techniques, what to do when having to work a commission that conflicts with your artistic choices, and I'm going to show you how I would have preferred to paint this masterpiece if it was not a commission. Once again, I have organized this video and set timestamps in the description below for your convenience.
You idiot! Do you realize what you have done? What magnitude of evil you unleashed upon the world? For the first time in my life, I know what I must do. I must finish him.
Huh. Forgot my water bottle. This is a painting of Curran Alexander Vineyards located in Lexington, North Carolina, commissioned by its owner. It's a great vineyard. I've been there several times myself, and I highly recommend it. Great wine. There were a lot of changes the client decided he wanted during the course of the work. This painting didn't end up how I would have liked, and around the end of this video, I did a digital rework of how I would have liked to have painted it if it were up to me. Now, on the land was a house originally built in the 1800s, and during the time of the painting, was currently being rebuilt from the ground up. This was problematic because I had to wait for the house to be constructed for me to actually paint it in properly. The gentleman who commissioned me is himself a very hard worker and takes a lot of pride in his heritage, and is doing his best to preserve it. He has commissioned me several times to do paintings for him, and I am extremely grateful for that. Well, this is actually the third time I have recorded absolutely everything, because for some reason the microphone cord was not only installed incorrectly, but I installed the wrong one incorrectly. In addition to that, needless to say, there was no sound on about 20 videos that I have already recorded. However, I am not going to waste that footage. I will do a masterful dub because I do believe that that will enhance, if you will, the quality of my work. Having said that, this commission I am grateful for having. Now, the purpose of this video is to really show my experience in working a commission that I am very highly grateful for, and but it can be a little bit difficult if it's not your style of work that you enjoy doing. Now, I'm not saying that this is a bad piece or my client was wrong to want something like this. Different people want different paintings, and there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, my client, some of the paintings that he asked me to paint, I really do enjoy painting, and some of them I don't, and he just has a different taste than I do, and that's okay. But I'm very fortunate to have commissions, and it enables me to do the stuff that I do in my studio, and it enables me to paint what I want to paint. It's okay if you're one of those people who doesn't like painting commissions, then find something else. Everybody's different, but for me, this is my experience and how I go about doing commission work. For landscape painting, it is best to work on location so you can get the feel of the painting. You have access to more information than you would from a photograph, and you can also take surrounding elements that might not be in the immediate landscape and place them into the scene. For example, a tree behind or a river to the left or right. I started by doing some quick sketches for compositional purposes, and then I started the painting with large, loose brush strokes in the interest of getting the large shape correct. In every video, I talk about the importance of starting out simple with large shapes and then slowly breaking the painting down into more detailed forms as the large shapes become more accurate. This painting is no different. Unfortunately, due to the heat and the distance of the vineyard from my studio, I did not paint on location as much as I would have liked. Instead, I painted much of it in my studio and took trips to paint on location when needed. So essentially what I did even before I started the painting, I walked around the vineyard, I had some wine, got wasted, woke up the next day in a different state, in jail. Obviously I did not have my pants, that's nothing new, it's been there, done that before, so that wasn't a shocker. It's best to walk around and learn the area. It's just like I talk about when painting a still life. You can walk up and you can look around it. You can look at it, you can observe it from different angles. You can do this with portraits if you have a live model sitting there. You walk up and look all around the model, understand it three-dimensionally, and that is going to come out in your work. Such is landscape painting. It's very similar. So I just walked around, saw what I wanted to see, did some masterful sketches, and then I just started painting. And I would go back and forth whenever I needed to. It's nice to get out of the studio. I love landscape painting. Maybe one of these times I'll actually do a plein air painting. I don't do a lot of landscape paintings. Normally I'm in my studio, but I really do enjoy landscape painting much more than I actually show. Maybe I'll do a video that has like some badass landscape painting that I did, obviously with zero effort, as in pretty much everything that I do in here doesn't require any effort on my part because of my substantially large brain. However, I think that would be something very beneficial for all of us, and yeah, I might consider doing something like that to redeem myself for this. I intentionally painted the tree line darker so I could bring the midtones and lights up from them. Using a round brush, I slowly dabbed the paint in the proper light shape. I will normally refrain from pushing the highlights at this stage. I will paint midtone shapes over the darks, and then I will paint another lighter value on top of that. Be careful not to cover up all of your darks when you do this because it will kill the light effect. I am keying off the sky while making sure to step back a few feet to continuously see the entire painting and to make sure I haven't killed any light effects. The gentleman who commissioned me wanted the feel of the vineyard in a more ideal scene, and so I had to make some alterations to the actual perspective to suit this. I lowered the grapevines so we would not feel as enclosed, along with widening the pathway up to the house. This house was being rebuilt from its original design back in the 1800s, which meant I would have had to have taken a trip back out once it was complete. Until then, I would have to use my not insubstantial and juicy imagination to block it in. Now, you might ask yourself, but Louis, why not just leave a blank spot where the house would be, since you're going to have to change it once it's built? To which I would respond, idiot! It doesn't need to be detailed, and having the impression of the house will further assist in the proper discernment of the composition, you dumbass. Once I have the large shapes of the grapevines blocked in, I move from a larger hog hair filbert brush to a smaller synthetic filbert brush to hatch out the details of the leaves. I use the same dark to light mentality as I did with the tree line. I slowly hatch in interesting shapes with midtones and then continue to work the lights up from them. All the while, I'm paying attention to the entire painting while doing these details. It is important to note that the entire painting has been blocked in at this stage and the large shapes are properly placed. If they weren't, I would not have started on the leaves. There are also many ways one can paint leaves, which can be confusing to the beginner morons. I'm hatching the leaves out with a smaller brush, but I could also use another brush like a fan brush or a flat brush to get the main impression of the leaves instead. It is important to know how to paint leaves in many different ways because that is how you will best learn what you like, and it gives you a more juicy and succulent experience. When painting lighter leaves over darker ones, try not to use too much white in your mixtures because this will dull the color down too much. Instead, try to make your lighter green mixtures a bit more color saturated by using cadmium yellow and perhaps yellow ochre to lighten them. Finally, put a very little amount of red in your greens to make them look more realistic. This will subtly enhance your colors and prevent you from having to work back into the painting too much. I thought I would pose a question to my Discord community. What exactly would you like to see in this video? And do you have any questions about the painting after I posted it, of course? And these are some of the highly intellectual questions that I did receive. Quellar asked, how far do you compromise your own artistic instinct when doing a commission? Fascinating question, my dear friend Quellar. I never compromise my artistic instincts at all. I simply listen to what the client wants, and if I try to give the client what he wants at the sacrifice of any artistic instinct that I might have. So what he wants will trump that instinct, but I don't sacrifice it. I simply just don't do it. I hope that makes sense. And then we have a Randy 67, aka Randall. Randall, this is a very highly intellectual question. Where do they park their cars? It looks like a 19th century dwelling. Horses? Question mark. Well, Randall, that is a very fascinating question. They park in between the street and the wine hut, if you will, the tasting hut, as I believe the technical term is called. The road is gravel. Gravel is essentially broken up rocks. It's not mulch, it's broken up rocks. And that means it is an authentic vineyard. In fact, I would say there's probably space for about, I would say 20 cars. I personally could probably fit twice as many cars in if I was the one directing parking in that area. That is an excellent question, and I could also fit horses in between the cars. All right, we have Jamie, or AKA Hammy. I have a question though. If a client wants to commission you to do a painting that you know you're going to hate to do, how do you approach it? Do you still do it? Do you have stipulations? I don't do it if I don't want to do it. I'm a highly educated and trained master painter genius who definitely is not hurting at all insofar as commissions are concerned. I have an abundance of money. I am highly regarded and respected in all the great galleries. I don't do what I don't want to do. And then finally we have a question from Junachita, or Carlos. How much of your creativity would you sacrifice for a commission? Already answered that. And are there things you won't do, like not suitable for work? Like getting naked? I'll do anything. It is the artist's job when working with someone who is commissioning you to truly understand what they are wanting from you. They don't know what it takes technically to achieve a certain effect. That is our job as artists. Most of the time they are asking you to paint a feeling. My commissioner, for example, wanted me to paint the grandeur and feel of his vineyard while telling of its history through the house. He always wanted things to be bright and colorful because he is a very energetic and positive person. These are the things an artist must strive to understand to best please their commissioners. In light of this, I made sure to really push the colors, as you will see. Here is how I set my palette up for landscapes. I'll post an image of my palette once all the colors are mixed, and I will show you the color ratios of each. Feel free to take a screenshot. I always organize my palette from dark to light. I will mix about 5 piles of paint per color scheme ranging from dark to light, and I mix between these piles of paint with my brush when I paint. Like I said, it is important to add some red to your greens. If you don't, you will run the risk of the green being too tropical and it will make the landscape look fake, like your face. Normally, when I am painting a landscape, I mix a brown color scheme for the trees and the dirt, as you can see here. I've also included a set of grays for the house. All these colors I can modify with my brush as I paint, but having piles of color already mixed saves me a lot of time from having to constantly mix from scratch each color with my brush. For the sky, I used a mixture of cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, and Creminence white. You can add yellow and red if you want to dull the blue down. In this particular painting, I didn't do this because I know my client likes very deep, rich blue skies. Using a round brush, I slowly paint the sky in and shape the tree line at the same time. It is common practice among the morons to paint the tree line too sharp against the sky. This divides the painting and informs the viewer of your alarmingly low IQ. If you wish to be a superior artist like me, don't make the tree line too sharp. Instead, paint the sky and the trees at the same time to ensure a proper syncing, if you will, of sky and tree line. The brush size I'm using for this awe-inspiring feat is most likely a number 6 because every time I look at the brush size, it says number 6 no matter how big the brush is. Even though I am working in my studio, I am constantly walking back and forth from my work and looking at it from a distance. This is a good practice to have, which will help you to see the overall painting. Paintings are meant to be viewed from about 3 heights back, so it is important that it looks good from that distance. We've all seen paintings that might look good from close up, but when we step back, they look flat and overmodeled like your personality. Working this way will help prevent your work from looking like it was painted by a butthole. I paint the bushes in the same way I painted the grapevines in, with confident and sexy brushstrokes that make even the most seasoned painting veteran jealous. I've also found that clenching my butt cheeks as I paint enables me to more easily control my brushstrokes, along with the most welcome side effect of toning my ass as I paint. Remember, my dear peasants, technique in painting is secondary. The only thing that truly matters is how good you look while you are painting. Using my ultimate painting technique that I invented and definitely did not get trained to do at a school, I went down and get the large shapes of the bushes with a round brush that is probably number 6, and I proceeded to clench the hell out of my butt cheeks as I dab the brush expertly and effortlessly into the shapes that I observe and desire. I then masterfully switched to a smaller filbert brush that is probably not a number 6, and I easily hatch out more detailed shapes of the bushes, working from dark to light, all the while paying attention to the entire painting as I do such detail to make sure that I am not piecemealing this son of a bitch. Notice how I keep the painting slightly less detailed in the distance. This will help give a better sense of depth to your landscape and present a nice contrast that will help your detail pop. The painting is too open, so I decided to paint some shadows in at the bottom of the painting that would give the work some much needed character and contrast the bright painting, thereby solidifying the focus around the area of the house. I use a 1-inch Bob Ross brush to accomplish this. I then work the transitions by mixing individual midtones to connect the dark shadows to the lighter areas, and I take my time applying them with the 1-incher. I am trying to think of what looks good compositionally when I apply the shadows and light spots. This is an area I reworked several times. It is good to know how to come back to certain areas in your painting because it will ensure they are properly worked up and will fit within the piece. It is also good to rest your eyes from working on such areas by going to other parts of the painting during the session and returning the next day. Giving your eye breaks on compositional elements in this manner will help give you that fresh eye that will help you get the drawing faster. Now that I have the bare bones of the work painted in, I am able to start carving some character into the grassy foreground. I really put my heart into this part of the painting. Surely nothing could go wrong, and surely my client will like this. He definitely won't make me paint over this, thereby wasting a solid week of my highly valuable and savory time. I had done some pamphlet sketches prior from nature that put me in the mood to paint tiny details into the work. I'm using a small filbert brush and I'm doing my best to work around the area. I will constantly sweep back over the details to improve and modify them to better fit the overall feel of the painting. Remember, my dear peons, it is imperative that when painting detail to also be looking at the entire painting at once. Many a moron have gotten carried away in what buttholes call inspiration, and they have detailed the shit out of their work only to awake a few hours later to a painting that looks like it had its face raked off with something akin to the serrated hammer edge of a frost giant, like the ones the hero Dark Elf Drizzt had to fight in front of Mithril Hall to save the dwarves. As I said before, my client really loves color and asked me to embellish the roses of the bushes. Now, if I was just doing a painting for myself, I would have painted them differently, but it's more important to do what the client wants as long as you think it's in his or her best interest. What I mean by this is, sometimes the client has a feeling of what they want, but when they ask you to do something, it might conflict technically with what they want. A good example of this would be to continuously lighten the entire piece so that the actual light effect is lost when they ask you to lighten things up. In painting, we paint the illusion of light by contrasting darks with the lighter colors. This creates a light effect. The average person might not understand this. So if the client wants something light, it is the artist's job to deliver technically on that. I knew that painting the flowers in a different manner than I would have liked was not going to conflict with what my client actually wanted, so I painted them bigger and more colorful than they were in reality. I have to say, I'm the type of painter, highly motivated. I do a lot of different types of painting and enjoy obviously doing paintings. If you ever look at my website, paintings for churches. I enjoy doing portraits. I enjoy doing still lives to a degree, kind of not. I do enjoy it when, no, I don't enjoy that either. Landscape paintings are great. Look, where I'm going with this is all of these subject matter, if you will, play off of each other, right? Doing landscape painting will make you good at portraiture. Doing portraiture will make you good at still life. Doing still life will make you good at figure painting, but it will make you better in real life. All right, so everything plays off of each other. And I think that's something very profound, if I may say so myself, and valuable that we can, withhold within ourselves going forward as painters, okay? It was a scratch.
And my mom is Jenny Mann.
Oh, Jenny Mann. I remember Jenny Mann. I remember Jenny, absolutely.
And then did you remember Iris, oh, wait a minute, her maiden name.
Much of the detailed work you see here is being done with a small round synthetic brush. As I always say, if you're a beginner, you do not need every single brush to make a painting. Limit yourself in your brushes so you can learn what each brush can do. You'll surprise yourself as to how many different effects any one brush is capable of. I've stated several times before that when doing detail, we must learn to be looking at the entire painting as we work. This will ensure that the painting remains unified and we are able to better discern what detail and where will best enhance the overall painting. It will also prevent us from overworking the painting and making the detail a distraction instead of an enhancement like your beer gut. I am aware that this detail is a bit stylized, but again, I am painting what I think my client wants. After all, I'm a highly trained and educated painting master genius who never makes mistakes and whose every brush stroke is worshipped by the masses, ergo, I'm better than you. Keeping this in mind, I proceeded to contact my commissioner to notify him that the painting, aside from the house, was nearly complete and for him to take a look at his own convenience. The appointment was made and he let me grace him with my presence by his fulfillment of that appointment, in which he promptly informed me that he didn't like the grass detail and that I needed to quote-unquote mow the lawn. Also, he wanted more light and color in the piece. He asked me to take some of the carefully crafted shadows out of the painting and enlarge the flowers to gargantuan proportions. At this point, life had lost all meaning for me. The darkness encroached yet again and I blacked out, which is a defense mechanism I developed in response to the unspeakable hardships I have suffered at the hands of people who do not understand my artistic genius. After I came to, I painted over several days worth of work, all while cursing my existence, which I do believe was the right attitude to have. After all, being a painter is by far the hardest job in the world to do, which is why only the best, brightest, and juiciest of humans are able to accomplish such a task. As this is going on, I am notified that the house is very nearly completed and to haul my ass down to Lexington to finally paint it into the masterpiece. Upon my arrival, I deduced through careful inspection and from years of discernment that the house was indeed built but not yet painted. In addition, my insurmountable wisdom informed me that it was not summer, but in fact fall, which meant the colors were different and there was indeed a chill in the air. However, even these setbacks were no match for my self-inflicted skill at being a badass and sexy painter forged in the fires of artistic destruction, and I proceeded to paint the hell out of the structure nonetheless. At this point, things went south, and I frankly don't want you looking at what I had to do, ergo, the time-lapse of shame. Essentially, after mowing the lawn, I was told it needed more texturing to put some white flowers into the scene, along with further enlargement of said flowers. I was told to take the trees off the house and double its size. Unfortunately, this was the change I could see hurting the painting artistically, but it would indeed please my client, so I proceeded to enlarge the house a few times. Actually, I repressed these memories, so screw you guys for making me relive this experience.
You could have finished me, but you didn't. Why? Is it because you're not all bad? Perhaps you are a benevolent baby. Maybe I was wrong about you all this time. From this moment on, I will not refer to you as my enemy, but rather friend.
I'm going to go through and rework this, and I'm going to show you just a couple changes that I would have made. Keep in mind, this is a matter of preference. This is not an indictment on anybody's taste. I'm going to make some changes. I'm not going to make all the changes, frankly, because I am indeed lazy, and I would have to rework quite a bit everything in this. I probably have to essentially repaint everything. You know, I do like the way that I have painted some things. One of the things that I do actually enjoy is the tree line right here. This area right here, the trees are really nice. I like the grapevines, as you can see here. The sky is okay. I would have probably put a little bit more color, contrasting color, some oranges, if you will, in it. I don't mind how really the shadows came out. They do seem a little bit disconnected. I would have liked to have seen the shadows going over the grapevines a little bit. They are kind of caressing, if you will, the bushes, the rose bushes and such. Now, the house, might cover up parts of the house. For me, I like that being a little bit more impressionistic, even though it's at this focal point. I'd like to see a little bit more brushwork in it. Whether or not I'm going to put that yet, I'm not quite certain. We will find out. Frankly, I have to be honest with you, I'm not going to do everything because I am indeed too lazy to do that. Probably shouldn't have said that. Note to self, edit this out in editing. Too lazy to write that down. I'm gonna take some roses out. Frankly, with the grass, it's too uniform. It has these stripes going across it. Screw it, whatever. You know, honestly, if the client likes it, that's what's most important in a piece like this. I might embellish the ground just a little bit. However, I did paint it once already, physically paint it. In reality, I will not do that twice. As they say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you twice. Now, I am going to do the markups. Boom shakalaka. Now, as we can tell, I have narrowed right here, this area. It was here, right? Let's see if I'm right. Boom! Okay, I had enlarged the house to gargantuan proportions before. However, this time I just kind of left it there, covered it up with the trees. And frankly, I'll be honest with you, I don't know how to get this texture here besides copy paste, superimposing over. I don't really have a brush for it. Suppose I could have spent more time, but again, I was extremely lazy with this. Note to self, I edited that out as well. I took some of the flowers out, made it a little bit more palatable, because in fact, on this side, there were no bushes. So this is kind of an ideal scene. I kind of like how I painted the grapevines, especially the painting in here is not too bad, if I may say so myself. It's not great, but it does pop forward. There is a sense of depth to it. There is a sense of form. It is interesting. It's fascinating. It does speak of my invaluable and gargantuan genius quite nicely, if I may say so myself. Yeah, I had some dirt in here. I'm not really pleased with how I did it even within this. The tree line was beautifully painted. Didn't really have to touch much up in here. So yeah, there were some beautiful trees covering the house and such, and I painted those in over it. I like a sense of mystery, right? A sense of the brain fills in the information that's not there. That's really cool when you see that type of stuff. Essentially, I did lower, if you will, this area right here and made this a little bit taller so that we're kind of sinking into it. If we're kind of part of the scene, that's kind of what I'm going for with this. You know, overall, it's okay. Now, let me say this. My commissioner has asked me several times to go back out on the lane and just to paint how I want to paint. And his wife, in fact, has different tastes than he does. And so, again, there's nothing wrong with what he wants. It's just not what I prefer. And so I'm telling you how I would go about it because this might help you in your own endeavors. Because there's this thing, people are, all butthurt if they can't do, expression, if they can't be artistic about things and all this bullshit. And, to be honest with you, being artistic is important, but, the most important thing in life is getting paid and making money. All right, kids, if there's one thing that you take away from this video, besides doing art for evil, which I stand by that, is always put money first above everything, above values, above your personal life, above your children. If you have children, especially put money above the children. I really do think that this is the most valuable aspect. And look, all I'm saying is you don't need to be a pussy about each painting that you do. And even in this one, I did some really good things in it, and some things I did, like I wouldn't have wanted to do, but I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. Son of a bitch. And overall, I'm pleased with it. What the hell is this? Overall, I'm pleased with it. It's a fairly decent painting. It's a relatively large painting. It made my client happy, and like I said, there's certain things that I like in it. It was great practice for me, and you know what? I can go out and do a painting how I want to do a painting, when I want to do a painting, because this provides me the freedom to be able to do that. Nothing gives me more of a swell of pride than seeing your fat cheeks jiggle as you slowly chew the golden roasted and juicy sweet-ass nuggets of knowledge I have spoon-fed your fat face during the course of this technological anomaly some might classify as a YouTube video. Just remember, art is to be used not for expressing yourself or for making others feel good, no. Art is to be used for evil and solidifying your intellectual dominance over the lesser peon morons that surround us on a daily basis. So until next time, I am Skit. And this is Baby. Huh.
You have to...